You're watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. From Toronto, Ontario, I'm Catherine Bullock. Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. Today is the 11th Global Accessibility Awareness Day. What does this mean for Canada's Muslims? Stay tuned for a conversation with AZHAR KARIM, Director of Finance with DEEN Support Services. But first, some news headlines. Alberta Premier resigns after narrow win in leadership review. British Columbia to build state-of-the-art museum. Windsor MSA shares Ramadan spirit with local community. In Gaffe, former US President calls invasion of Iraq unjustified. Now, the details. Addressing people last night, Alberta Premier Jason Kenney says he will step down from his position as the leader of the United Conservative Party. This comes after he won a leadership vote with a slim victory. Just over 51% of those who voted supported Kenney. He says this is too small a margin to continue as leader. Kenney tells the audience, quote, "The result is not what I hoped for, or frankly, what I expected." Kenney will remain the province's premier until he formally hands in a resignation. At the moment, it is not sure whether or not he will stay on as MLA for his riding of Calgary-Lockheed. Premier John Horgan has announced that the province will build a new energy-efficient Royal British Columbia Museum. After partially closing in January due to certain exhibits' links to a racist and colonial past, Horgan says the new museum will be more inclusive. The new museum will be one of the first government projects of this size that partners with local First Nations. Indigenous people will be part of the project development and delivery teams. Projected to cost the province over $780 million, the new museum will be one of the most expensive structures of its kind in Canada. Set to open in 2030, it should create nearly 2,000 direct construction jobs, as well as more than 1,000 associated jobs. A high school Muslim student association in Windsor, Ontario, has given a local Christian non-profit organisation over $5,000. The money was raised through donations and bake sales during Ramadan. Co-president of the Vincent Massey Secondary Schools Association, Suleiman Sayed, tells media sources that Ramadan is about, quote, giving back to those less fortunate. Rukshini Poniagulan, the executive director of the non-profit Downtown Mission, says the donation is more than just financial aid. She says that it is inspiring to see young people come together and help their community in this way. Sayed plans to continue the initiative and raise more money for other charities. In a gaffe, former US President George W. Bush called the invasion of Iraq unjustified, before correcting himself to say he meant to refer to Russia's war on Ukraine, local media reported yesterday evening. He was delivering a speech at an event in his presidential center at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, according to the Dallas Morning News. The 75-year-old former president blamed his age for the gaffe, as the audience erupted in laughter following an initial awkward silence. The US invaded Iraq on March the 19th, 2003, on the premise that there were weapons of mass destruction in the country. This ultimately turned out to be false. British troops left Iraq May 22, 2011, and US troops left on December 18th the same year. And that's it for the news. Today, as I said, is the 11th Global Accessibility Awareness Day. To talk to us about what it means, we have AZHAR KARIM, the Director of Finance at DEEN Support Services. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Walaikum assalam, Sister Kathy. Thanks for inviting me to your show.
Thank you for joining us. I said and know that today is the 11th Global Awareness Day, but I confess it's a day I haven't heard of before. So can you just tell us what this is, Global Accessibility Awareness Day?
So this day was started back in 2011. It all began with a blog post by a web developer named Joe Devon. He just wrote a blog on this subject of accessibility, And it triggered discussions all around. And then every year they started celebrating GAD on the third Thursday of May. And since then, around the world, in different countries, special events are held, and different companies who are big on the accessibility side, they run different events and all that, just to promote the day and to create more and more awareness about GAD.
So you said it was a blog. Was that blogger in Canada?
No, he was from California. And then somebody, I don't remember the name, in Canada picked it up, and then he contacted Joe, and that's how they got together, and it all started from there. But in a very short time, like in 10 years, it became a global phenomenon, which is amazing.
Now, when I think of the word accessibility, it doesn't just mean computer accessibility, but is this particular day focused on digital accessibility?
Yeah, the main purpose is to, create awareness about digital accessibility and the products and services in the digital technology environment. But I would say when the day is celebrated, it also, addresses the topic of accessibility. So it may go beyond that. But the main purpose of GAD is to create more and more awareness about how digital accessibility can help people with disabilities to use different products and services.
So we've seen the pandemic, the lockdown, we were shut in home, everything went online. Did that highlight gaps in digital accessibility for the visually impaired?
I don't know exactly, but that was remarkable, the way things changed during the COVID and the way we started doing things virtually. And this kind of an awareness, I believe, must have taken things on a long way, that what is the significance of digital accessibility. If websites or products and services were not accessible, people with disabilities would have faced a lot more difficulties, because now they could order their food, they could order their groceries and all that stuff. So thanks to such, movements that have created this kind of a technology environment where people can access websites easily, and they can do so many other things on different platforms.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about what kind of people's experience barriers, and then the way that those barriers are being removed?
So you see, if a person in a wheelchair goes to the local branch of his bank, and at the door, if he finds out that there is no ramp, then this is a physical barrier for that individual. And the same person, or a blind person like myself, if I go to the website of my bank and I find out that I cannot interact with that website with my screen reader, then that's a huge digital barrier. So now around the world, there are different legal requirements in terms of meeting certain accessibility standards. So one such standard is WCAG, Worldwide Accessibility Guidelines. And different countries have now requirements that all government organizations and businesses must make their websites accessible. So there are specific guidelines given, like in Ontario, we have AODA law, according to which all organizations have to make their websites accessible. So if a blind person goes to a bank or a hotel booking site or a airline booking site, and if he cannot interact with that website, then that's a huge digital barrier. And things like GAD, they are promoting this thing that we should remove all those barriers.
So that means that the websites have to be reconstructed with a special kind of code that allows, you said it, you mentioned a screen reader and maybe voice interaction. Is that what it means?
Yeah, so screen reader is a software on your computer, or it could be on your mobile devices like smartphones and tablets. So a blind person or a partially sighted person would use that screen reader. But as you said, the screen reader will work on a website if it is properly coded. So there are certain, accessibility elements which should be present on that website. So web developers have to take into consideration the accessibility side of their website. And it's not just with screen readers. If a low vision person is, using a website, there are color contrast and font size and, so many other kind of issues which may be important. And I must say here, we are not just talking about vision. Disabilities could be hearing, it could be physical and motor, it could be cognitive. So your website should be very friendly in terms of usability. So if a person has learning disabilities, your website may not be cluttered, and it should be very simple, and so that it's easier for those people to use. So it's not just vision, it's all kind of disabilities.
You just answered my next question. I was going to ask you about that, beyond vision. Let's move on then and talk a little bit. You said that there are events, special events being marked the world over. Is your organization, DEEN Support Services, doing anything special today?
No, we are not doing any special event, but we always, post things on our social media, which, address this issue. And we make sure, GAD is a good reminder every year to individuals and organizations that how significant accessibility is. And when we put our posts on social media, we make sure that our images and other things are accessible for, blind and partially sighted.
I've seen some social media postings where there are words that describe the image contains this and this and this, it contains this and this color, red on a green background, and that kind of thing. Are those the sorts of things that you're talking about on social media?
Yeah, exactly. So this is what we call alt text or alternative text. So even on websites, if there is an image, a screen reader wouldn't know what that image is. But if there is a description behind, if there is proper coding, then the screen reader will read that description and the user will know what is this image about. It may just be a picture. It may be your picture, and we must identify that this picture is about this individual, or what's happening in a scene, or, if it's a product image, what is this product? So in this way, this is one of the requirements on the websites, that all images must have alternative text.
Do you think that the Ontario or Canadian governments do enough to draw awareness to Global Accessibility Awareness Day?
Yeah, I believe so, because different regions, like we are in region of Peel, and they are having special, events on this day. And there are some other private organizations. I attended an excellent webinar yesterday on the same subject. And one of the experts from Microsoft was explaining how their products and services have been made accessible. So that kind of information is really very helpful.
Well, we're out of time, but thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope you have a good rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching Canadian Muslim News. If you like what we do, please share, like, and subscribe. Stay safe, and God bless.